Hello.
Hello.
And welcome to the Angry Microwave Film Podcast.
Do you know what number now? Or should we just...
we won't number them anymore. We're so consistent, there's no point in giving numbers.
I can't count past two.
I'm Brad, with me as always is the granddaddy of the Angry Microwave, Big Boy Callum.
Hello.
How you doing?
That is how I ask to be referred to all the time before this podcast.
On this episode, we're talking about Bob Iger leaving as CEO of Disney. Which is a sad time. It is sad times. We're talking not so long ago that we think he's been such a great CEO for a company that some people love, some people hate. But in terms of business, he's done a great job since he's been there, and it's certainly come as an unexpected announcement.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk through what it is that we do if we were given the keys to Disney. Why we think he left. We're going to talk a little bit about Blumhouse. I thought that'd be a nice comparison to what Disney are doing with all their money. And then at the end of the podcast, obviously we recommend a film to watch this week. Just one film each. Yeah.
So two films.
So, Callum. Okay. Hi, it's me, Bob Iger. I'm leaving Disney.
Oh no!
Yes, for reasons which I'll talk to you about in the second segment of the show. But here are the keys. What would you do?
So, I'm going to get so much hate if Disney theme park fans find this video.
Right.
I would destroy Epcot and rebuild.
Whoa.
I would rebuild from scratch. Rather than this huge overhaul that we're doing at the moment.
So what are they doing at the moment?
So they're demolishing basically the centre bit of it.
Right.
And they're going to redo everything so it's more current. Because it's very 80s at the moment. It very much
Which
feels
is great.
that. Not the good kind of 80s. And so they're demolishing loads of stuff and kind of building it. So this is my first Epcot thing.
Right.
The next thing I would do, I would go to Universal, who currently own the Disney Marvel theme park rights.
Do they?
Which means that Disney can't build any Avengers stuff. I think east of the Mississippi River, I believe, is what it is. So they can't have Avengers, they can't have Iron Man, they can't have Spider-Man.
In their own theme parks?
Yeah, it's mad.
Right, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they signed this deal, I think, in the early noughties where it wasn't massive. For probably peanuts.
This when they were selling off the rights to Marvel.
Yeah.
Just here, there and everywhere.
And the only thing I think they allowed in their theme park is Guardians of the Galaxy because they're not classed as Avengers. So,
Smart.
So I would go to Universal and I'd be like, hey guys, we'll swap some properties with you if we can have Avengers back. Because at the moment, nobody's winning because Universal aren't allowed to build anything new because Disney won't approve it. And Disney can't build anything Avengers-wise, so basically the whole of Orlando just can't have any good Avengers stuff anymore.
Right.
So I would do a cheeky trade. I don't know what I would ask if I was Universal to have from Disney.
Right. But you think business-wise it makes sense for them to have access to all of their catalogue?
Yeah, it'd be so good. So I would build a new theme park from scratch.
Right.
Based around
Something
Avengers.
you love doing on the PC anyway, right?
I should build this on Planet Coaster. It would be so good. But then, maybe Universal could have the Alien franchise for and build a ride about that.
Okay.
Or obviously they do the Horror Nights mazes every year.
Right.
And now Disney own all of the Fox films. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of stuff that they could trade if they started playing ball.
But you still think that in terms of Disney's future, theme parks, maybe not in the next few weeks and months because of the coronavirus, which is just killing out everyone.
Yeah.
Which is why we're always in this room, we're just not leaving. But you think it's still a big part of their future and a big money. Is it still a big money maker for them?
So Bob Chapek was head of parks and entertainment for Disney.
Right. Okay.
So you've already got that theme park link there. Although not many theme park people seem to like him because some cuts and stuff happened underneath him.
Right. Okay.
But equally, he could be held responsible for Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, which is a success. Mm-hmm. It looks amazing. Toy Story Land and all the theme parks in general, they're all doing quite well.
Right. Okay.
So I don't know, you've got that theme park link there that he knows. But
you think building on their theme parks, still putting boatload of money into theme parks, creating one from scratch, as you say, you think that would be a good business move? So it's now very niche for a film podcast. Right. So Universal are building their third big theme park, which will open in 2024. Right. Okay.
So they need something to compete against Universal with, and I feel a brand new theme park from scratch, rather than sinking loads of money into redoing it all.
Yeah.
Just build a new theme park from scratch and make it So much nicer.
Would you have one in England or the UK?
Ah, see,
or is it too close to Paris?
See, there's always this talk about the Paramount Park, which is going to be built near Ebbsfleet, I believe.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, but they seem to keep like pitching it while only having 1% of the funding.
Right.
So.
Right. Okay.
Obviously, Disneyland Paris doesn't really do that well. So yeah. I don't know, but I just feel like they need to like. Carry on doubling down.
Paris was a terrible place to put it. Like it's so like it's such a ball ache to get to.
It's so cold all the time.
I'm gonna. So you're talking like old school, which is obviously like theme parks is a very old school business model. Something they've been churning money from for decades and centuries. Well, maybe not centuries. I'm gonna go with the new. I'm gonna talk about Disney Plus. Okay. And one of the first thing I would do is to look at the slate of Disney Plus releases and say, how the hell do we expect people to stay on for the next year?
There's nothing coming out.
No, you visited America, or America visited you,
yes.
And you've completed Disney Plus, right?
Yeah,
there's everyone's seen Mandalorian, right? They shouldn't be releasing that weekly in the UK.
This is obscene, and also the Clone Wars. What are they going about the Clone Wars? Are they releasing that weekly from the start? It's such a mess.
But it's not enough. It's not enough content. When you look at the Marvel shows, they're not coming out for months. Some of them not until the back end of the year. There's just not enough. But look at all the products that they own, all the properties they own. Why do we have to wait a quarter of a year for another series to come out?
It's insane how I've stopped visiting America for a month because there's like nothing that I really want to watch until I can just stay here and watch Disney Plus instead of traveling all the time. It's just insane. Like it's not release after release after release, and like as much flack as Netflix gets.
Yeah.
Like, they put so much money into programming, and not all of it is going to stick.
No.
But enough of it does with, like, Stranger Things, literally every like 2-3 weeks, there seems to be a new, like, buzz from Netflix.
Enough for you to, like, I haven't thought once about cancelling, like, my Netflix.
And even the stuff they are doing, like, the Lizzie McGuire reboot has gone to shit now, because they're making it more than PG.
The same happened with Love, Simon, right? They've sold that to, is it Hulu?
Yeah, it's insane what's happening over there. Like,
yeah, I just think there needs to be an actual product plan and a structure to what's happening with Disney Plus. I just don't think. Sorry, I think a fly just went at my eye. There doesn't seem to be enough of a plan for Disney Plus, to the point where at the minute I'd rather spend £9 a month on Netflix than spend £50 for a year on Disney Plus, because I don't think I'm going to get £50 worth out of Disney Plus at the moment.
The thing is, their back catalogue isn't even there. So in the UK, we're not getting The Simpsons because that's been void of all their marketing. So clearly it's not coming for some reason.
Yeah.
There's just like, even like the most recent Star Wars films aren't going to be on there in the UK. So I don't like, their whole plan is just like...
I mean, I think the people who've come out the best so far has been Sky. Like, Sky have done so well. I say so well, like they've just probably dumped a load of money. But they've kept a lot of the products that they have, haven't they, over here.
Their contract must have been watertight for them to launch and not have everything in there at the moment.
To the point where, you know, people thought, are people going to cancel like their Sky movies? Are people going to ditch Netflix for Disney Plus? And Disney Plus made a massive imprint on the industry when it was announced, and it's made them a load of money already. But is it going to be enough to keep people?
But stuff like Malcolm in the Middle was meant to be... So this is my biggest bugbear at Disney Plus. Malcolm in the Middle is one of the best programmes ever made. Do you want to oppose me or not?
I haven't watched it in 10 years, but I thought it's great.
So they announced that was going to be part of the original programming in the US, and it just isn't there like loads of other stuff. Like, they promised so much stuff would be there day one in the US, and it's just not there. So I don't know what the hell happened there. It's just like, it's doing amazing numbers, so that's why I don't think they seem to care at the moment, which is such a lazy position to be in.
I think what people wanted was, and this is what people were expecting, they perhaps thought that they were going to get the entire back catalogue, and that's going to be enough to tide them over while we're waiting for the new releases to come out, like the new originals exclusive to Disney Plus. But at the minute, you don't have the whole back catalogue, and you don't have many originals. So what are you really signing up for? Once you've watched, what's his name, Jeff Goldblum and Mandalorian, and maybe Lady and the Tramp. What else do you have?
I mean, this is especially bearing in mind their staggering releases. Can you imagine how barren it would have seemed to have been if they've day one dropped all that stuff, and there would have been one new series. I think The Day in the Life of the President is the only new series I remember coming out recently. Right. So it's what would there have been in between?
I mean, my fiance will claim this to be true. Unfortunately, I've been talking for way too long about how excited I am for Disney Plus, and the more information gets released about what's not on there and about how infrequent the originals are going on, the less interested I am. It's coming out this month.
I've always paid for Netflix and Amazon Prime, and I'm always happy to just have it as a rolling subscription. With Disney Plus, I think it's going to be one of those things I just turn off and on.
Yeah.
Which shows how little I think there is. And bear in mind, it's quite cheap as well.
Yeah.
It's just...
I think that's almost going to come back to bite them, isn't it? The fact that it's so cheap, I think that almost entices people to be like, you know what, I'll just cancel that.
Yeah.
But anyway, what else do you have anything else on the list? Because I do. When I'm on a bit of a rant.
You tell me.
Well, we're talking about Mandalorian. I think they need to sort out the state of play of Star Wars. I think they need to, and I'm not going to bring in Kathleen Kennedy here. That's an argument for another time, which I'm sure many people have already had.
She is great.
Okay. I like Kathleen Kennedy.
Yeah.
But they need to sort out what they're doing with Star Wars, and for the love of Christ, stop making films that take place over the same 60-year period or even 10-year period. Just
the High Republic seems to be the next thing.
But they've been how long have they been saying that for?
Well, the other day they did the announcement of the High Republic books, and they all sat down in this lovely room, and it looked like they planned the whole thing out. And it was like, why didn't you do this for the movies where you're making over $3 billion? These books aren't going to make hundreds of $millions, but you could have done that with the most important bit. They didn't manage to make the landing of the whole saga, so now it's a bit of a mess, and they can't retcon episode 9. But
we're talking about, even if we step away from episode 9 and the film releases, go back to Disney Plus for example again. Look at the Obi-Wan TV series.
Everything
that got pulled. People don't know what's happening with that.
Even the Rogue One series has apparently gone into rewrites again.
Yeah, but you need to sort out Star Wars.
They're too precious.
Again, I'm not going to slag off Kathleen Kennedy. She's great. She's a legend of the industry, and she deserves all the acclaim that she has received in the past, but you can't run a studio like that, because that's what she's doing. She's running a studio, and whether it's her, whether it's the people below her, no one really knows. It's probably her. You can't run a studio like that. I mean, imagine what people would be like if Marvel was being run like this.
Yeah,
that would never nobody would have gone to see Endgame because no one has an interest.
Well, I like the fact that so far, if we're Disney CEO, we wouldn't even touch Marvel. We would just be carry on as what you're doing and just. Well, be Marvel.
That's actually another one of my points.
Oh,
I do talk about Marvel. We'll talk about that in a second. They should sell it. No. But yeah, sort out Star Wars. For me, I think that's something that needs sorting out, because we're Star Wars fans, right? And I don't dislike Episode 9. I was a bit disappointed with Episode 8, but now I think it's one of my favourite Star Wars movies. Apart from Episode 7. So and Rogue One. So we've got good Star Wars movies, right? But we want to look forward to the next Star Wars movie. And how can we do that if every time they announce something, they're saying, got ya. They're not directing this. Get out of town.
So as my co-CEO,
yes,
I would take on board your point about Star Wars.
Right.
And I would make sure that point was carried on with video games. Because the video game situation with Disney is insane. So a few years ago, I think it was in an investors call, they didn't really care about video games, which is insane bear in mind how much money they can make. Like GTA 5 is the biggest selling entertainment product of all time.
Yeah, bigger than any film, bigger than any
bigger than Endgame, bigger than all the Star Wars films. And yet they just seem to treat them as side projects. Like Jedi Fallen Order's come out, which was good. Star Wars Battlefront was good, but they're every 2 or 3 years at the moment. And if you look at all their properties, they've got all the Avengers games. There's just so much stuff that they could do well. And I know Square Enix are doing some Avengers games, but even that's been delayed to hell and bad reaction already to it. But you need to get their stuff together and either invest in game studios.
They need an Arkham type success, don't they? Because look what Arkham has done for
Warner Brothers, which is made by Warner Brothers Games.
Yeah.
So literally, published. So So like studios can do this, like much smaller studios than Disney, and they just don't
get rid of EA.
And they just don't seem to kind of like care about the whole thing, which is kind of insane. Bear in mind how much money is on the table with video games.
That was going to be one of my points. But when you look at all the properties that Disney own,
and Fox now as well.
Yeah, exactly. So they own Fox, they own Marvel, they own Lucasfilm, they own all these things like Pixar. They've got all of these partnerships and all of these companies.
Could you imagine a world in which we get good Pixar games?
We should be living in that world. Why don't we?
Could you imagine just like...
I know someone who'd be there like day one for I don't know, Monsters Inc. game, for example.
But like, could you imagine like Pixar, like not even like film adaptations of games, just a purely Pixar created video game with an original storyline? How good that game would be if they used their talents to make like full-on video games.
Yeah,
it would be insane. Like if we were getting Pixar branded video games that were original.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's got the opportunity to make that kind of money, which is large enough that they care about.
And that's the thing. Like, I don't think a video game, like for one of their properties, because bearing in mind how much people love most of their properties anyway. I mean, it's Disney for Christ's sake. But they're not going to lose money. Why not have a partner and just do like a Disney original game? You know, like I don't understand why they don't have a game studio. Okay, what else we got on here? So we've covered theme parks, Disney Plus, Star Wars, video games. We do a lot in our first week in charge, wouldn't we? The last one on my list, Avatar. So they own Avatar now, right? Mm-hmm. Get rid of the whole, we're going to make this 5 movies crap, right? And I say that because I think that sets a really bad precedent. I think we're kind of running into this similar thing almost with Fantastic Beasts, right? You tell people this is going to be a five film franchise, right? Now I know Avatar's very different because the first film in this franchise was the highest grossing film of all time for a very long time, right? For a decade,
12 years ago,
right? Well, there you go. Right? And so they're within their rights to say we're going to make a couple more of these. We think it's worth it. I don't think we're going to see an Avatar 5. I'm willing to say that now. And I think what you need to do to James Cameron is say, just make a good second movie. Because you're chucking all this money behind this film, which I genuinely don't know if people are interested in.
Well, here's something that you will enjoy. So you know Avatar is now at Animal Kingdom with Disney?
Yes.
That land is set those 5 films after. So it's set in a universe where 5 Avatar films have already happened.
Right.
So we kind of know what's going to happen anyway if you look into the storyline of the land. But that's how like ballsy they were. They weren't like, we'll make it like based around the first one. They were like, we're making this from the storyline in 5 films' time. But like if you look at every universe, it's planned all that stuff that far out. You got Dark Universe. I'm trying to think of ones as well. Dark Universe, like, absolutely failed for that. Like, Fantastic Beasts is slowly dying from it.
Well, quickly. It's only 2 movies in, isn't it?
X-Men as well, I think, had some vague plan. Who knows with X-Men? It's just a bit like, here we go.
Power Rangers was meant to be 7 movies.
Yeah.
Like, you can't go announcing...
Amazing Spider-Man.
The Amazing Spider-Man, yeah.
Again,
you can't spend your film building up to another film because that's not enjoyable for the viewer, is it?
The only ones that really worked is Marvel, and Marvel for those first like 10 films had no plan. They would just like putting those characters in there and then seeing how they go and doing it on the fly. And I feel like that's what they need to do. Like, even the same with the first few Star Wars. Like I know that was a bit of an argument earlier on that they should have planned it out more. But those like spin-off movies, which were like, we're going to do this and this alone, they did really well. Like, so...
Wait, imagine, like, I guess how poor or how less good Episode 5 would be, like The Empire Strikes Back. If that was, the whole thing was building to Episode 6 and the conclusion. Like, that film is great because it works well on its own.
Yeah.
And they thought, okay, let's try something here. Let's build on what we've got. And they didn't spend the second film building to something else. They just built upon what they already had. And you need those solid foundations. But I know he's shooting, is it 2 and 3 back to back? Is it always shooting 2, 3 and 4 back to back?
Who knows what James Cameron's doing at this point?
But I feel like the people that were most impressed or enjoyed Avatar the most were, at least in my experience, like my parents' generation, because they were in awe, especially with the technology. but they're bored of 3D now. Like, my dad isn't going to go and watch 3D. It was exciting to him back in 2008. He doesn't give a shit anymore.
Even a point that if it's filmed in IMAX, I feel like the IMAX kind of like spectacle is starting to fade as well because there's so much of it as well now.
Yeah.
So
I mean, my IMAX hype is reserved for, I think, Mission Impossible films and any Chris Nolan movie. So soon. But yeah, I just don't. I think you need to completely scrap the whole every year we're going to alternate between an Avatar and a Star Wars movie. That does feel so forced. And considering how the fan bases are
forced. Okay, just me.
Christ. Considering, like, I guess what the fan bases are feeling towards both of those products at the moment, I don't even know if Avatar has a fan base, but like, where you feel like what the audience is, where the audience is at the moment, you shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be releasing an Avatar Star Wars, Avatar Star Wars, Avatar Star Wars for, what did they say, the next 10 years? Every Christmas?
Yeah.
People won't care.
They're still doubling down on this Star Wars date for 2022. Which I don't believe is going to happen still.
The only way I think that would happen is if it was the Obi-Wan movie.
Yeah, they doubled down on it yesterday, saying that they're still going to release Avatar next year and Star Wars and then alternate forever.
But I think that's something that would need to change. Do you have anything else?
So my final action in my first week of being
oh, this is first week.
is I'll be ringing everybody up and going, can we get a DeLorean? We're not making Back to the Future.
Thank God.
I don't think that's right studio. It's Universal. So what I will do, I will reinstate 20th Century Fox as a film studio and let them run as a profitable film studio like they were before.
Yeah.
Like, let them make films, because under this current plan, which they've got, we're getting the same amount of kind of like Disney films as we got before. We're just losing all those Fox films.
Yeah.
So I would let them like set up with all of their like creatives. So I understand from a practical point of view where a distribution is separate. Well, it's now like combined and they got rid of the Fox one. But creative wise, they should be running Fox as Fox, because we're missing out on loads of films that won't be made now because they've been merged. And the fact that that was never challenged like during the merger is insane to me.
For me, it feels like the first example of when they've purchased another studio or another company and they're kind of trying to fully integrate it into their existing brand. Whereas when you look at Marvel, like, people were talking about, like, it's, Disney-fying Marvel, or, Marvel is clearly, like, Disney property. For me, I look at Marvel like a separate entity.
Yeah.
And even Star Wars, I feel, is the same. I watch a Star Wars movie, and I don't feel like I'm watching a Disney movie.
Lucasfilm runs as Lucasfilm.
Yeah, exactly.
Fox is not running as Fox now.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think it's the first time they've kind of just completely wiped out the higher brass and said, okay, right, we're taking this product, thank you very much, have a nice day, you're all fired.
We're taking the IP, that is it.
Yeah, that's what they've taken, isn't it?
But we're not going to be making films, so stuff like 28 Days Later was Fox Searchlight. Like, Fox Searchlight is an amazing brand. I think it's 25 years old last year. And they're just not like that kind of stuff isn't going to happen now. Like, we're not going to invest in new films. And I don't think we are really winning at this point. Like,
no.
Because we're not going to get all those films and stuff like X-Men films where those characters will come back. They won't be additional films to the MCU. They'll be counted as an MCU film and we'll still get the same number of MCU films. So it's just like nobody's really winning in this situation.
Well, yeah, but no one is winning, are they? Like, the creatives aren't winning. The staff aren't winning because they're getting made redundant. The fans aren't winning. I don't even see how Disney are winning.
Yeah, like it's mad. Like, they went into debt over this purchase, which I didn't know about until the other day. And I just,
which is crazy when you think that Fox, like, the studio, hadn't really made money in a long time, like, because they've had so many big budget duds.
Yeah.
And like the most successful film recently was Ford versus Ferrari, and that wasn't exactly $1 billion film, was it? But no, so that's quite a lot that we'd change in our first week. Let us know what you do in your first week in control of the Disney Kingdom. So let's talk a little bit about Bob Iger, shall we?
Okay.
What? Unless there's anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you finished here? Are we done here?
Still got Bob Iger.
So why do you think he left?
So
let's speculate. Let's go all the sun on this.
He's been planning to leave for ages, and he said he will step down in 2021.
Yeah.
This was not expected. So my thoughts were, this coronavirus, this virus malarkey, I do think this will make Disney have a massive like drop in earnings. So we've already seen some of their Asian parks close for over a month now.
They've lost 170 million in the last 2 weeks because of the closure of those 2 parks.
It's insane. So like, and bear in mind the virus is ramping up, not going down. This is going to be a long term thing. Like releasing films in China over there and those other Asian markets. And if it spreads further in the US, like I think some AMC's like cinemas have started to close in the US as well now over it. Like it's only going to get worse before it gets better, and I don't know how long that impact will be.
Okay.
But like potentially years, and I don't think he really wants to stay there on a down.
So you think Corona is the reason why it's kind of pushed him out a year earlier?
And also Disney Plus at this point, like it launched really well, and we've already seen those originals starting to flounder. I think it's just this like mixture of all these things coming to once. Like it's all just.
First of all, I'd recommend anyone who hasn't read his book that came out last year to read it. I think it's a great read, and it seems quite truthful as well. He talks about some of the backstage goss. Some of the drama, and he was quite open about when he opened his first park, which was it Tokyo? Was it Shanghai? No, Shanghai was his, wasn't it?
I think so, Shanghai.
So he said when he opened that, like it's always been the legacy of a Disney CEO to kind of open a park or like have this big accomplishment and then step down. And he openly said, I've thought several times throughout my tenancy as CEO of this company that I'd step down at a certain date, and he's been there probably a decade longer than he thought he would, right? I don't know how long he was CEO for, but he's been CEO for a long time now, hasn't he?
I think maybe 20 years.
So I don't know. I think he was always going to step down, and I understand why people are saying, well, he wanted to step down on a high, and with the stock market going down because of the coronavirus and stuff like that, why not just finish now? I honestly thought that he was going to step down, and the way that he was coming across in his book, that the last big thing that he wanted to do was to launch Disney Plus. And even though we've just been slagging off Disney Plus for what they need to do better, that was probably one of the biggest things that he could achieve, is to put together a streaming service. And there is a lot to like about the streaming service. Like, it's quite pristine and clean for our American users.
Yeah. When I was in America, the user interface is absolutely fantastic.
So I'm not surprised. I'm surprised that if he said he was going to leave in 2021, that he left a whole year earlier. But I don't know. Maybe it's a late run-in for presidency. Like who?
So the other theory as well was. This is the more boring theory, is that he was going to leave in the next few months, and so insider trading is quite a big thing, and apparently he started leaking to those people that he was going to leave, and obviously it would go down. So that's why we got a late, I think, Tuesday evening announcement,
which is strange. It was a very strange time, wasn't it?
But then that would kind of marry up with why they had to announce it, was because that news had started to leak to investors who then started to sell their shares because they knew there would be a dip in the coming months. That's the boring reason why, and probably the most probable reason why it was announced at such a weird time. But I think if anything, Bob Iger will be remembered for how he adapted throughout his tenancy there.
Yeah.
Because like streaming services weren't a thing, like the internet probably wasn't a thing like when he started being CEO.
It's crazy to think that, isn't it?
And he's adapted with Star Wars. So, and the parks as well, like the parks have adapted throughout all these things. So you've got Fast Pass, you've got all this technology now. I think he's just really shown how adaptive he can be in this role, which bearing in mind CEOs normally avoid risk and normally go with a safe option. He's very much like gone with the tide and absolutely smashed everything that he's done.
And I think, whether you think this is a positive or a negative comparison, but I do think there's a reason why people have compared him to Steve Jobs. And let's not forget, he was the second person that Steve Jobs told that he had cancer to after his wife. That's how much Steve Jobs respected him. And I don't know why I brought that up, but there's a little fun fact for you. Read the book, it's really good. But no, I think he is going to be remembered, as you just said, like as not necessarily a visionary, but he adapted well, and he did overcome so many, so many incidents. So, and I think he's done a great job. I think he's going to be remembered fondly. I mean, let's not forget he it was his idea to purchase Marvel. It was his idea to try and get into bed with Steve Jobs. It was his idea to, even though again we just slagged it off, like to buy.
Yeah, it was
Fox,
the Pixar acquisition underneath.
Yeah,
that's mad.
Yeah,
like...
Pixar. So he was responsible for Fox, Pixar, and Marvel all going to Disney. Star Wars going to Disney, opening up the Shanghai theme park to launch Disney Plus. So those 6 things,
and Galaxy's Edge. There's so much more stuff.
There's so much that he's done. And although some people may look at this and say, yeah, but there's consumerism, like they have a monopoly on the market. I still don't believe they have a monopoly on the market. I do think they own maybe too much of our entertainment when you look at how much the box office went to Disney last year.
Well, scarily, I read a fact the other day that Apple has enough money to buy Disney in the bank, which is absolutely insane.
Which is mental, isn't it?
So we're not the biggest player. Sorry, I think it's like some really amazing fact that somebody can buy Disney still in this day and age.
It's mental, and they're about to have their own credit card as well. It's going to make them so much money. Can't wait to get in debt with that one. But no, I think if you're talking from a business standpoint, you can't help but admire him. I'm going to pitch the book for a third time because he's very frank about how when the young visitor to the theme park died, he kind of opens the book with that, and like it's really humble,
yeah. So I listened to the audiobook of that. Mm-hmm. He only reads the first chapter because he's Bob Iger, he's got better things to do. But you honestly hear in his voice how much that affected him, and it comes across very un-CEO like for him to be that open. Yeah. And I'm not sure how the rest of the book goes, but like if that first chapter's about anything. Like
read the Steve Jobs chapter, it's fascinating. But I think like Steve Jobs, he's kind of built the pop culture world that we have today. Like if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have this Marvel universe. We wouldn't have had whether you love them or hate them. You wouldn't have had this third generation of Star Wars. We wouldn't have had all these things. So I'm going to remember him fondly. I am actually sad that he's leaving. He was been a father figure to me. So.
Okay, so should we go on to our final topic where we recommend one film this week?
Yes. Would you like to go first?
No.
Okay. You know what? As we're talking about Disney and as we're talking about the change and stuff like this, I'm going to recommend Saving Mr. Banks. Have you seen that?
It's such a good film.
It's such a great film.
Tom Hanks is the perfect guy to play Walt Disney.
Is perfect. And I do think even though it does kind of glorify Disney in such a very clearly obvious way, I think maybe it's a good time to just revisit what the whole point of Disney was, and that was to bring laughter and love and life into people's homes, and I think that's what Bob Iger has done.
Oh, that's so lovely.
So
I'm going to sidestep on this film podcast and not recommend the film. I'm going to recommend the Imagineering story on Disney Plus, which is I think a 6-part series. Mm-hmm. Well, I've seen it. I don't know how many episodes there are. Of building like all the Disney parks and following that, and you really start to learn about the CEOs quite a lot as well. So Michael Eisner has a big part to play with it. Mm-hmm. Roy Disney as well has quite a big part, and then obviously Bob Iger, and it's a really fascinating kind of like viewpoint because they kind of talk through their lows, which for Disney you don't really see that often. Mm-hmm. And then obviously talk through their highs equally as well. Yeah. So that's on Disney Plus, which launches soon in the UK and it's already out in most places.
Or you can frequent America like Callum does. Yeah. But no, I think that was a nice in memoriam to Bob Iger.
We should have graded the thumbnail with some dates and it would have looked great.
But no, again.
And all the best of luck to Bob Chapek, who's going to be watching this.
Yeah, no pressure, because not only was he respected within the company, I think it's very rare you get a CEO where like the consumers are like, I like that guy. That's very rare in this day and age. So good luck, Bob. But yeah, until next time, let us know what you thought of any of those topics
and what you would do if you were CEO.
What you would do. I've been Brad. This is still Callum. Until next time.
Goodbye.